it's Angela from Your Natural Dog, and today I have one of my favorite guests, Carter Easler from CBD Dog Health. He is our educator. He's our director of education. He literally travels all over the country training our retail stores. He speaks at events and actually trains our veterinarians who carry our products or who just want to learn more about cannabis medicine. He is certified in cannabis medicine for veterinary practices, and we love to geek out and talk about the different compounds, what research is showing. So today we are talking all about flavonoids, what they are, what they do, which ones cannabis has that are shared with other plants, and which one cannabis has that no others do. So learn all about flavonoids. It'll be fun. You'll recognize some that you probably are already giving to your pet that you didn't even know is already included in a full spectrum hemp extract. So stay tuned.
I have a 5-year-old border collie named Wednesday who suffers from car ride anxiety and travel anxiety. I have a 9-year-old Great Dane named Moxie who's starting to get arthritic and hard to get up and move around since she's getting older. Then I have a 15-year-old dog named Harley who suffers from severe arthritis and dementias. Wednesday would just sit there and shake the entire car ride, which I didn't want to put her through that, so I stopped bringing her places. Moxie was having a hard time getting up and down the steps and in and out of bed. And Harley, he was having a really difficult time even just getting up from the laying position, and he would whine and cry and bark at night, wouldn't get a full night's sleep. I've tried the other supplements, I've tried prescriptions, and I just didn't really like the side effects. I felt like the bad outweighed the good, so that's when I decided to give hemp oil a try. Since using this product, I can take Wednesday anywhere. I give her hemp oil about 20 minutes before the car ride, and she is good to go. Moxie can run and keep up with her 5-year-old sister, and it's just great to see them playing again. And even Harley can jump off in the couch now, which is great. And even when he is laying on the floor, he goes to get up and he just pops right up, and it warms my heart. And I'm just using one thing for all my dogs that range from 50 pounds to 145 pounds. And it's all natural, and I know I'm not doing more harm than good.
All right, we are back with Carter Easler, the Director of Education and Outreach for CBD Dog Health. And today we're going to talk about flavonoids, which I'm sure people have heard of before. It wasn't a word I had never heard of before this, but
I remember that scientist from The Simpsons who always went, Flavin.
Oh.
I think that he was referring to flavonoids because they have so many different like flavones and flavocytes, like flavonoids.
And
flavins. That's like a name for like a large group of them.
So what are flavonoids, Carter?
So they're basically these kind of bioactive molecules that are found in all sorts of different fruiting and flowering plants that have these therapeutic effects similar to cannabinoids like CBD, CBG, THC, or terpenes like we've talked about, like beta-caryophyllene. Flavonoids are another kind of essential part of not only cannabis medicine, but all sorts of other plant medicines and herbal medicines that really have really amazing and studied benefits for our pets and ourselves.
That's right. And they are things that we can incorporate in not only our diet, but our pet's diet. But they exist in these botanical medicines. And for cannabis, they are very important in the role of the Entourage Effect, which those of you who don't know what the Entourage Effect is, that is when you have a whole plant or full spectrum plant medicine, meaning you have all of the compounds in it, and all of those compounds work together to give you that medicinal effect that you're looking for, or what has been proven in research to have done. So I think what's funny about flavonoids is that like people would start talking about them or mentioning one or another, or they would mention like milk thistle or another plant medicine. And I would be like, wait a minute, that's in cannabis. So why don't we just take cannabis? It's got all of them in it. I know quercetin was probably the one that I heard about the most. And after reading the Forever Dog book, I know it's one of Dr. Karen Becker's favorite flavonoids or supplements. And that is because of its antihistamine properties. for dogs with allergies, animals with allergies. But again, it is one compound. So I don't know. To me, I'd rather, again, have a full spectrum product than an isolate of a compound. So what I'm trying to say is, why would I go take an isolate of quercetin, instead take a hemp product or a hemp and a mushroom product or a hemp and an herb product, drink some green tea with my cannabis or my full spectrum, or give it to my dog and get a much more powerful effect?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it just makes so much sense. You know, there's a reason why we are told over and over again, like, eat your vegetables, have like a really diverse, diet. And, that when we talk about cannabis, this is just, think of it more as like part of a robust diet with these really amazing medicinal properties. It's not a drug. It is just part of something that is going to naturally help the body do what it already knows how to do, help to moderate the immune system and help it function as it naturally should in best case scenario.
And how can you argue with nature? I mean, it exists in nature and interacts with our bodies like this. There's got to be a reason for that.
Yeah, and these flavonoids are amazing because, like, you think that they kind of fly under the radar. Like you said, people don't really know a lot about them, but I think in cannabis alone,
they're like the Robins to the Batman.
Right. Yeah. And there's a lot of them. Like they can make up to 2.5% of a cannabis flower on a dry weight basis, which is
wow.
That's a lot of these little molecules.
And not only that, there's over 6,000 different flavonoids that exist in nature. And in nature, what I love is when we find these amazing compounds in these plants, is that they serve a purpose for the plant, and then they turn around, and when we take them, their extracts, they do amazing things in our body and fulfill the deficiencies in our bodies. So it's amazing what they do. But flavonoids, have a lot to do with attracting the pollinators. So color, flavor, smell, those types of things. So literally they are responsible for photosynthesis and making sure that the quercetin, I think in particular, but flavonoids. So there's over 6,000 of them again. So every time I hear these types of things, that again is why I would never mess with a plant medicine, why I would want it in its purest form, why, like in cannabis, we extract all of our products using CO2, supercritical CO2 extraction. And the reason we do that is because we don't damage those other compounds like the flavonoids and the terpenes when we're doing the extraction. So that's why it's so hard to compare products apples to apples, because some people are doing it the cheapest, worst way ever, and then others are making medicine. So it's kind of like taking a diet supplement versus a true medicinal product.
Right. Absolutely. They did a study at the University of South Carolina about, I think, a flavonoid that we're all really familiar with, curcumin, which is found in turmeric, which is kind of one of the herbs that at CBD Dog Health we really love because it's in our Ease tincture. In the form of turmeric. And curcumin is, it has so many benefits for its anti-cancerous properties, its anti-inflammatory properties. It's great for gut health. And what they found is that this CO2 extraction, which we use for our cannabis extracts, that is the best way to get the most out of the curcumin, out of the turmeric root, while maintaining kind of that synergistic balance, all those other compounds that are in there. Because it's the same thing with plant medicines outside of cannabis. They all, again, have many, many different compounds. It's not just curcumin that we're looking for. We're looking for the full, abundant relationship between all those different pieces.
And as we know, turmeric also has beta-caryophyllene, which is a terpene found in cannabis. So what I have discovered is that, of course, I know a little bit about some essential oils and herbs and adaptogens, a few other, but not as much as like an herbalist or a homeopath or a Chinese medicine person would know. But what I found is that cannabis is the king. Cannabis has the most than any other plant. However, there are other plants that share a lot of the same medicinal properties. So every time you find yourself taking a quercetin or an anti-inflammatory, and you're staying in the vegan realm, you are probably getting another medicinal plant that shares some of the same compounds as cannabis does. So why not just take the cannabis? Because it has them all.
Right. Yeah. And I think that, what's so cool about these flavonoids as well is that in a lot of cases, they are actually interacting with the endocannabinoid system. So when we talk about the endocannabinoid system, as we have before on this podcast, it sounds like super specialized. It sounds like it's only going to be dealing with CBD, but, it is so much more kind of far reaching and integral to the way that our bodies function, and, interacts with so many different plant compounds, as well as endogenous, naturally occurring compounds inside our bodies that our brains make. So,
right.
Something
so
like
when you see a piece of research that says green tea fights cancer, it's probably because it has those same compounds, like I can't say it, silymarin,
the one in
curcumin, quercetin. What was the other one? They all have crazy names. The other one, the K. There's like 4 of them that have already been proven. Yeah, that all have already been proven to have anti-cancer properties. Right. So if those 4 flavonoids exist in a plant, any plant, it's going to be a powerful botanical cancer medicine, which all of those exist in cannabis. And what makes cannabis really special is that it has its own flavonoids that don't exist in any other plants, which I think is really cool. We're going to talk about those when we come back after this break.
So this is Bruce. Bruce is a 12-year-old pug, and he has had a lot of issues over his life, but for the past several years, he's had a really weird hacking, coughing issue that no one has been able to get under control. It's nothing infectious. It's just kind of a result of his little flat-faced breed and the respiratory issues they usually deal with. And I have finally found something that worked. It's called Breathe by Mycodog. It's a mushroom extract, and it has been incredible how quickly I saw results. Literally overnight, I saw a difference in the hacking and coughing, especially during the night he was doing it. So the Breathe tincture has really made a huge difference for him, not only with his breathing, but just overall supporting his immune system, since he has 2 other dogs in our household. They go to daycare every day and bring home various germs and respiratory bugs themselves, and he has been totally healthy and clear of any issues since being on this tincture. So we're just super grateful that finally something is out there for these flat-faced breeds to breathe better and live a happier life.
All right, we're back with Your Natural Dog with Carter Easler, our Director of Education for CBD Dog Health. Keeps me on my toes, lets me know what type of research is out there, along with, you guys, we've been here since 2018, so we have thousands and thousands of people's pets who are benefiting from CBD Dog Health tinctures and salves. So we've seen everything. So nobody can say to us, my number one thing, that THC is dangerous and will hurt your pet, because that ain't true. So maybe we need to do something just about THC. Carter and I are trying to get together and do every cannabinoid, every flavonoid, every terpene, and talk about what comes out. So we'll get to THC at some point, because I feel like we need to scream it from the rooftops. I just had somebody that I respect and look up to and follow tell me that THC is dangerous for pets. And I said, it is not.
Oh, my goodness.
How do you know that? Because I just gave my dog 10 milligrams for 2 years. And not only did it not hurt her, it kept her alive. So I don't want to hear, and her pain away. And all I need to do is send this person how many pieces of research that have already proven that not only is THC safe, but is an anti-cancer, anti-tumor, pain reliever. So yeah, you're going to see a lot of Carter so that we can keep on educating you guys on what we are learning and how fascinating it is, which really opens your eyes up to all supplements, what they all are, how I think it's amazing that cannabis and mushrooms are coming out into the marketplace as new supplements and how we can compare what a whole plant or whole mushroom extract is compared to just taking out isolates of the flavonoids, terpenes, or cannabinoids. So
Right.
we're learning more about medicine. Does it affect you when you go purchasing things now, or you're like, wait a minute?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I look at really any time that I'm, looking into an herbal medicine that I might want to be taking, there's always going to be, you look on the shelf and you're going to find the whole plant version of it. And then you're going to find the isolated, more synthesized and refined version of it. And so
you're going to find the cheap, the middle, and the high.
And it can be really hard to know which one to take. I think one thing that we already mentioned on this is milk thistle and this flavonoid silymarin, which is really amazing for the liver, for our dogs with liver issues and for people with liver issues. But then there are products like denamarin, which is made from milk thistle that has silymarin in it, but is a refined and isolated version of milk thistle. And so, it's great, it's awesome, but why take this isolated form of it when you can get the same effects, if not better, with more of that kind of similar entourage effect with cannabis using if there were a full spectrum milk thistle
now tell me
extract.
Truth, Carter, you didn't know that before you started this, right? Because I didn't either.
Not.
I mean, it has changed my life. And this is why we're talking about it, because once you comprehend it, you're going to look at everything you're eating, taking. My biggest thing is preservatives. Now that I am making my own products and know that I can naturally preserve my products without I can have a product with 5 ingredients in it. The 5 ingredients that I want, or the 4 ingredients I want, and then the organic preservative. Now I look at other things and I'm like, what the hell? Why are there all these ingredients? What are they? Oh, they're isolates. They are preservatives to make it be able to sit on a shelf for 5 years. Those types of things. All those things that not only do we not need, but our pets don't need in their body, especially if they're already dealing with, an issue or a disease.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, like, these natural compounds, they, over time, they do break down. When they're any kind of natural product, it should break down. It should have a natural lifestyle. You do want to keep it out of the sun, out of, exposure to oxygen, because as we see with cannabis extract, exposing, CBD to air, to heat, it's going to change those molecules. And so, these things are very shelf stable when you take care of them. But I think that it kind of speaks to their quality, that you kind of have to either use them fresh or just be careful about how you treat them, and that you don't just let them kind of sit and bake in the sun.
Right. All right. So now let's talk about how cannabis is still the queen, because she's still the queen of flavonoids. And as you and I were just preparing to do this podcast, we're literally just reading up on flavonoids and literally muttering under our breath, God, plants are so freaking cool. Yeah. They're really so cool. So cannabis has 3 or 4 of its own flavonoids that aren't found in anything else and have their own medicinal properties. So we're going to talk about other plants, but to this date, I haven't found one better than cannabis or cooler than cannabis or have more properties than cannabis does. And this is like before humans have started to breed and do certain things. So I can't imagine what's to come. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of crap and stuff that you're like, what? Why? Just leave it alone. But remember, folks, you can't grow a cannabis plant, extract it, put it in a bottle, and patent it and make billions of dollars. So Big Pharma is busy, very busy, trying to figure out how to get a hold or a stake in this cannabis industry. And that is why it's still federally not legal. It's still very difficult and confusing. And it will stay that way until they can figure out how to make billions of dollars. But back to cannabis as queen of the flavonoids. She's already queen of the medicinal compounds. She's already the queen of the terpenes, and now she's queen of the flavonoids. So let's talk about these cannaflavins.
Yeah, there's a few, specifically canflavin A, canflavin B, nice and easy to remember. But they, again, similar to how our cannabinoids have their own kind of therapeutic profile, things that they're specifically good for. These flavonoids similarly are good for different things. Canflavin A is known for its anti-inflammatory properties, its neuroprotective properties. Canflavin B is known for its anti-cancerous properties and its analgesic properties. It's also super antioxidant, which is something that a lot of our flavonoids have in common. The antioxidant properties with them are really powerful.
Right. And we did mention now quercetin is an antihistamine and has anti-cancer properties. So it's a great thing. I don't know if we did mention some of the foods that also have quercetin in it, like kale, the dark leafy greens, the apples. What else did we say? I know there were a couple more.
Celery is a big one.
Celery is a big one. I don't know if dogs eat celery, but that's also would be a great source of fiber, vitamins, fatty acids. Carrots. Yeah, there's so many. And you literally can. I remember looking up epigenin, which is another one. I remember looking that up for somebody that was suffering something, because I can't remember what that one was known for. Muscle relaxant. Parsley is a good one too. I'm sure oregano is a good one too. But yes, so again, anytime you're buying any type of product that is a natural plant product, you're going to want to make sure that it's a whole one so that you can get these other medicinal compounds.
Yeah, I think that it's so important to kind of recognize, how these things work together, and that there is this synergy between plants, as you've talked about before, how when you combine them together, similar to how when you're using adaptogens, for instance, turmeric and cannabis, they share these compounds. They contain the same molecular structures that when used in conjunction, you kind of get to tack on the entourage effect from turmeric with the entourage effect of cannabis, and you get to kind of boost them both together.
Right. They don't contradict. They don't cancel each other out. They literally work together and become synergistic. That's why they're called adaptogens. They literally adapt to what they're going to do in your body and what needs to be done. So I think it's amazing. And also remember that you can't have all the benefits that cannabis has been proven to have without the flavonoids. They literally, their biggest thing is to help the phytocannabinoids do their job. So that's how important they are. So that's why you don't want to mess with the medicine and get that full plant extract.
Yeah, cool. And there's so much kind of confusing terminology out there for people, where people say complete spectrum or broad spectrum or broad or full spectrum THC free. Unfortunately, people will use different words to kind of claim a corner of the market, when there is some terminology that is standard across the board.
Right. We follow the hemp industry, which calls it a whole plant or a full spectrum extract.
Yeah. And when you start getting down the line, more refined to a broad spectrum, they're going to tell you that they're just taking THC out, but you have to know that if they're taking just THC out, you're losing these flavonoids as well. You're losing terpenes. You're losing other bioactive
imagine that you're straining something and you're trying to strain out. So, whatever it is, I'm trying to think of whatever it is, but some of the good stuff is going to come out in that straining process. So it's exactly like food. The less processed food is and plants are, the better. And so that's what you want to pick. And always look for that COA, which will help you, which I don't think they show flavonoids on a COA. But if you're dealing with a full spectrum product with a COA, you're getting the flavonoids in your extract. So you don't necessarily need to test them. What else? What are other tips of getting it? So again, if you're looking for an extract to help your pet with something, just make sure that it's a pure one and a whole one. And check and make sure it doesn't already exist in your hemp extract that you're giving your pet, because it probably already does.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and just know that, you're not going to get too much of these things.
Right.
There's not a point at which you're going to have too much quercetin, too much, curcumin. If you're eating it in a natural source, if your pet is consuming it in a natural way. Of course, if you're dosing it high at an isolated refined version, there's probably going to be a point at which you're overloading the system. But if you're just taking a cannabis extract and it's full form hemp extract, or you're feeding a balanced diet, you're going to be really safe to have kind of a balanced amount of intake of these.
Cool. Thank you, Carter.
Thanks, Angie.
Any of those of you that are really interested and want to learn more about the cannabinoids and terpenes and flavonoids and all the properties in cannabis, some of my favorite resources are projectcbd.org, and leafwell.com is another one that is just chock full of information. And then when it comes to your pet, particularly your pet, cbddoghealth.com has so much information. My website, angelaardolino.com is it research or studies? Literally has every research done on animals already in one link, both on mushrooms and cannabis. So Carter and I keep track of all this in case anybody goes, my dog has da-da-da-da. What is the best that you can give them? I also created a guide that you guys can get that's all about cannabis and what the compounds do along with mushrooms and what works best for that. So you can sign up for my emails or CBD Dog Health emails to get those. All right, Carter, thank you. I know we'll be back. We're going to talk about our endocannabinoid, AEA, or anandamide. Yeah, we're going to talk all about that next time we see each other. Thank you. See you then.
Thanks, Angie.
Bye.